All right, welcome back to Vanguard, guys. Unfortunately, Greg is out of the shop, so my name's Kermit, and I'll be taking you guys through this 32 Ford here. We're going to do our typical thing, where we're going to show you the engine, which, of course, you can see that now, but we're going to give you all the details in a little bit. We're going to take you through the showroom, look at the car, give you a good idea of the paint, the interior, take it out for a little drive so you get a good idea of what it drives like, and then we're going to throw it up on our back hoist so that way you can actually see what the ins and outs of the mechanicals of the car, the undercarriage, and so on and so forth. And like I said, we're going to give you the technical details of the engine and the transmission and the rear end. So, all that being said, let's listen to this small block run. All right, guys, starting at the front of this thing, obviously it's got the 32 grille. That's the one that everyone really wants. This front actual shell is actually steel on this thing. It does have a pretty nice, good-looking set of frame rails on it. Looks like someone actually took their time when they went and painted them. Stainless brake lines on it. It does have a rack and pinion steering on this thing. It is a manual rack, however. But, you know, all that stuff looks good. Big old MSD box here. I like the big headers all hanging out of it. That's pretty nice. I do like the wheels on the front as well. Coming around to the side of it. This is a glass body, by the way, so of course this thing is brand new. You don't have to worry about rust, it being fiberglass. And the fitment's pretty good for these glass bodies. A lot of the time you get these and they're kind of like, yeah, you know, but this one actually seems like the body gaps actually line up pretty darn decent on it. Coming around to the rear of it, of course, you do have a little bit of a sportier tire in the back. All this in here you would imagine would get nice and chipped, and it all seems like it's in pretty good shape. I don't feel any rock chips or anything like that in it. Coming around to the back of it, of course, it does look pretty nice back here. You got a lot of real estate right here where you can see a lot of any paint blemishes if there would be any. I really don't see any. It looks like the paint's laid out pretty nice and flat on this thing. Beautiful, kind of a really vibrant red color. Coming around to this side here, you can see even the frame rail down here low on the car. I mean, a lot of this is very, very nicely done, very, very professional. Looks like a very professional build on this car. And coming around to this side here, other side of our small block Chevy here. Beautiful, everything's chromed out. It does got the blower on it, MSD ignition as I pointed out. Nice chrome catch can here for your radiator. Champion aluminum radiator in the thing, and it does have a big electric fan up front to prevent overheating. Nice set of little more modern headlights on it. Boogie spring in the front with the looks like a drop front axle on it. Very nice build on this thing. Very, very tasteful, I should say. So let's check out the interior in the trunk. All right, guys, as far as the interior goes, obviously it's very custom. You can see that we do have looks like they molded in a nice little armrest here. Here's the shift pattern here. It's basically just if I'm not mistaken, it's a turbo 350, so it's just a typical shift pattern. Brake over here is on the other side of the steering column. Of course, the dashboard, they've got all the nice custom gauges in the thing. All the stuff works just as it should. See here, what else can I point out about this thing other than the fact that they actually put seat belts in it. They actually have this underneath here would be your master cylinder. This just kind of like lifts up and you can check your brake fluid underneath that right there. So at least they thought about actually driving this car as far as maintenance goes. It does come with a fire extinguisher, God forbid you ever need it. The trunk is actually really cool with this thing. You can actually turn the key on and there's actually a switch underneath the dash here. And yeah, that's right, it's power. You do this at a car show and people are going to be like, all right, I guess you spent some time and money on that one. This is pretty cool back here too. It actually, they even took the fit and finish the interior and they brought it back here. This is actually some touch-up paint for the car, so that way if, you know, God forbid ever it does get a scratch or a ding, you can always just kind of touch it up with that. Inside this panel right here, has an aluminum fuel cell behind here, so this is where you would fill that up, and once you get done, all you can do is just that right there, and it stays hidden. Battery is behind this little thing right here. This thing slides all the way down and all the way up. So that's where your battery would be at, and if I'm not mistaken, this thing actually has a vacuum pumping on it as well to run your power brakes and stuff like that, which is really, really nice. And the brakes actually do work fairly well on this, or exceptionally well, I should say. Outside of that, I'm going to show you the trunk going down as well. Key on. Just that simple, and it automatically even built in like an automatic stop, so you can't actually stress the motor out. It stops on its own, and you can't hurt it like that. So that's Also a very nice nice thing with this is also has a tilt column. All that seems to work just fine on this. So all that being said, I guess now would be the time to take it outside and let's go for a ride.
Let's take our little Deuce Roadster for a ride. Small block supercharged power. Red. Out in the sun, having some fun. I tell you what, this car is amazing, guys. She looks sharp. She's got a supercharger on her, ready to go. Now give Tom a call at 248-974-9513, and he can tell you just how easy it is to park this dream in your drive. Now listen to this a little bit. I just moved the accelerator about that far. This car is a rocket ship, guys. What a sweet ride we've got here. And you know what? We can help you with financing too. If you need help with financing, about a 15-minute phone call with the banker and we can get you all set up. Now look down here in the dash. We got dolphin gauges here, everything you need. Water temp, fuel gauge, speedo, tack, oil pressure, voltage gauge. The key's right here, easy to get at. Low car shifter, tilt column, nice room. I'm 6 foot tall, weigh about 240. I fit in here real easy. My cameraman's about the same size as me, even a little bigger. He fits in here with me, no problem. And I tell you, a blast to drive. Let's give it some accelerator. All right, guys, literally that was 3/4 of an inch on the accelerator. I tell you what, I don't think you'll ever have to push this thing to the floor. It's got plenty of power here. Now our shop is right outside the Motor City, so if you'd like to come visit us, please hop in your car, jump in your airplane. If you're gonna fly in, the airport's only about 20 minutes away, and there's actually a private airport even closer. So if you've got your own airplane, please come on in and visit us. We'd love to show you our cars. We got about 215 in stock right now. Call Tom at 248-974-9513, and he can tell you just how easy it is to park this dream in your drive. Now here's the shop. We're gonna do something the other guys don't do very often. We're gonna put this car in the air so you can check out the underside, and you can bet we're gonna take a look at that small block supercharged power plant up front.
All right, guys, this is the underside of our little 32 Street Rod. Starting from the back here, one big thing that I'd like to point out, this thing does have a battery cutoff on it. So if at any point you do want to turn it off, you can just take this key with you, and someone would have to know quite a bit about your car in order to be able to have enough information to want to get a hold of it if they wanted to. Outside of that, we do have a battery tender on this as well, just tucked up here neatly underneath the car. So for winter storage, whatever it may be, or a long time, not driving it, feel free to plug it in, keeps the battery nice and alive. On either ends of this Ford 9-inch axle, we have disc brakes over here. Looks like the whip hoses are in really good shape. These do look to be GM disc brakes, if I'm not mistaken on this. I could be wrong, but it's what I believe it is. Moving forward at that, it is, of course, a 4-link too, I'd like to point out. Nice chrome bars on it, all the bushings like they're in good shape. 373 gear ratio in this Ford 9-inch rear end. It is a Posi, or for you Ford guys, track lock. Outside of that, all of our battery cables and such all going in here. Our fuel line here is actually push lock fuel line, which is a relatively nice fuel line. Vacuum hose here, this is to run our brake booster. So it has its own dedicated vacuum source, which is kind of cool, and you can kind of feel it in the brake pedal. Brake lines look relatively nicely bent. And they actually P-clamped into the frame really nicely. I like to see that. And speaking of the frame, this thing looks pretty darn strong. I like whoever designed all of this under here. There's quite a bit of support for not only the transmission, but in between the frame rails. The original Model A, or I should say 32 Ford frame, did not look like this, I can guarantee you. In between the frame rails, we do have a 700R4, Turbo 700R4 4-speed automatic. That does include an overdrive gear, so that 373 is really not quite that bad on the freeway when you got your overdrive, and you can actually drive this thing pretty comfortably at a relatively high speed. If I didn't mention before, when I said that feeds the vacuum booster here, that does imply we do have power brakes on this car. So power disc brakes, overdrive transmission, and we have rack and pinion steering. This is all leading up to a pretty solid drivability-wise car. Underside of our Chevy small block, it does have the chrome pan on it. Looks like a pretty nice wire loom going to all your wiring and such. Pretty nice balancer on it. Moving forward to that, looks like it's just got a typical drop axle in it with the boogie spring in the front. Looks like brand new shocks on the thing. It looks like they chromed up the spindles and where all that stuff goes, which is nice. Disc brakes, of course, in the front as well, with looks like braided stainless lines on the front brakes as well, which is nice. Nice AN fitting going into the fuel pump underneath there that runs up to your carburetor. Really tough looking motor mounts, if you guys can see that there. I also like to point out, like, stuff like this, that looks pretty darn beefy. I like to see stuff like that, and it's aesthetically pleasing. Outside of all that, let's check out wheels and tires. All right, guys, for wheels and tires, we have BF Goodrich Advantage TAs. So this is kind of like a bit of a sport tire, and of course you have an American Racing rim on it, but it's not a torque thrust. It's more like a 5-spoke, kind of like a mag. Of course, disc brakes underneath there, as I pointed out before. Let's go check out the rears. All right, guys, in the back here we got more meat. The front tire size, I realize now that I didn't say it, it's 195/65 R15s. In the back, it does have a stanced wheel on it, so this thing here is a considerably bigger wheel. As you can see, it's a 20-inch, and it's a 275/40 R20. So quite a bit larger tire, and once again, we do have a sportier tire who makes this. This is a Cooper tire on the back here. Like I had mentioned, disc brakes, fully adjustable shocks in the back. I guess at this point we'll get to look at the blown small block Chevy under the hood. All right, guys, for a power plant, I realized when I was at the back wheels there, I had mentioned underneath the hood. Well, there really is no hood. But if there was a hood, it would be right about here, and this was what would technically be underneath it. This is a Chevy small block. It was cast 7/27/1979. Of course, it's been updated considerably since then. You can see that we do have a Weiand intake manifold with a little wine blower on this thing. This is the micro V kind of type belt, or you know, the more easy belt to find at the auto parts store type belt that powers this thing. On top of that, you have a Holley 750 double pumper, obviously. This thing has down leg boosters. Of course, it is mechanical secondary, being a double pumper, dual feed, electric choke, and you do have the nice little snorkel on it. For ignition system, you heard me mention it in the showroom here. We do have an MSD ignition, MSD blaster coil with an MSD 6AL ignition box over there. L stands for limiter, so you do have a rev limiter with this thing. It will break the rear tires loose, so that's also a very wanted upgrade. I would like to point out over here, we do indeed have our Edelbrock fuel pump here, along with a nice made AN line, a filter right here to keep everything clean up inside the carburetor, nice black braided line here. MSD looking, they're Taylor wires. Beautiful set of valve covers. I like the headers that are on it. Let me see here. Good, looks like a relatively fresh set of spark plug wires. Brand new aluminum radiator with a nice catch can on it. All the hoses feel like they're in good shape. I already mentioned your micro V belt here, but it has the old school V belt here, and all that feels like it's in pretty good shape. Lower radiator hose feels pretty good. Nice chrome cover for your coil, although I do promise you that it is indeed an MSD blaster. Outside of that, you do have the low car setup, if I'm not mistaken, for your transmission kickdown and or throttle cable. Let's see here. Low car setup here for both your dipstick and your transmission dipstick over here. Nice chrome alternator on the thing. And I had mentioned the motor mount bushings down below, and as you can see, all the rubber's in excellent shape. Chrome starter, that's something I didn't point out. Just a pretty nice dressed up little hot rod. You take this to a car show, I'm sure you'll get quite a bit of attention, and you'll have a lot of fun driving it to the car show as well. So that all being said, if you'd like this little hot rod parked in your garage, make sure to call Tommy at the number below and let Vanguard Motor Sales park this 32 in your driveway.